Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered, when did I become the one waiting for the phone to ring? You raised them. You sacrificed for them. You stayed up through fevers, school projects, heartbreaks. And now? Now you feel like a guest in your own family. If you've ever felt that sting, when your voice goes unheard, when your advice is brushed aside, when your presence feels invisible, this message is for you, because this isn't just about being older. It's about dignity. It's about elderly wisdom, the quiet strength that comes from living, loving, and losing, then standing back up again. Aging doesn't mean fading. It means evolving. It means embracing life after 70 with grace, with strength, and yes, with boundaries. And yet so many seniors today are battling not just with senior health or physical changes, but with something deeper: broken family relationships, emotional distance, and a sense that their role in the family is shrinking. These are the real aging and family issues we don't talk about enough. But here's the truth. No one says out loud, you don't have to demand respect to receive it. You don't have to fight to be seen. There's a better way, and it begins from within. If you've ever felt like love was replaced with silence, if you've ever smiled through pain to keep the peace, stay with me. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to reclaim not only your voice, but your power. This is not just about healthy aging. This is about emotional freedom, and it starts right now. One, feeling forgotten and no longer respected. There comes a quiet moment in life, when the house is still, the phone is silent, and you find yourself wondering, when did things begin to change between me and my children? You gave them your best years. You wiped their tears, packed their lunches, sat by their beds through sleepless nights. You cheered at graduations, helped them chase dreams, and put your own needs aside more times than you can count. But somewhere, along the way, the conversations grew shorter, the visits became rare, and your advice, once so cherished, now gets brushed off with a polite nod or a half-hearted smile. You feel it deeply, don't you? That aching silence, that invisible wall that now stands where laughter and warmth used to be, it's one of the most painful aging and family issues we rarely speak of, the feeling of becoming irrelevant in the very lives you helped build. It's not about ego, it's about dignity. It's about family relationships once rooted in love, now tangled in distance, and maybe the hardest part is not the loneliness itself, but the confusion, the questions that linger in your heart. Did I do something wrong? Why don't they call more? Don't they remember everything I gave up for them? This is where elderly wisdom matters more than ever, because growing older doesn't mean giving up your voice. It means rediscovering its power. In this chapter of life after 70, respect is not something you plead for, it's something you embody. And while the outside world may focus on senior health and physical well-being, true healthy aging also means caring for your emotional soul. You are not just a parent, you are a person with stories, strength, and silent courage. And even if your children don't see it right now, you still matter. You are not invisible, you are not forgotten. You are simply standing in a different kind of light. Let that light guide you back to yourself. Because no matter how much distance grows, you have the right to feel valued, heard, and respected, not for what you gave, but for who you are. And if you're feeling this way, if the silence weighs heavy and the phone doesn't ring, know this: you are not alone. There are millions walking this path quietly, carrying both love and heartbreak. But within you lies elderly wisdom, the strength to remain calm in the storm, to hold your ground with grace, and to remember that your worth has never depended on someone else's attention. You matter, you always have, and it's never too late to live in that truth. 2, you can't demand respect, but you can radiate it. You may feel tempted, at times even desperate, to remind your children of all the things you've done for them, to say, "How dare you speak to me like that?" Or, "Do you remember who carried you through your worst moments?" That urge, mud, is human. It's the voice of a wounded heart, longing to be seen again. But here's the truth, and it may hurt before it heals. Respect can't be demanded. It can only be inspired. In the journey of life after 70, this is one of the hardest lessons to accept. You cannot shout your way back into their hearts. You cannot guilt them into gratitude, because true respect isn't a response to volume. It's a response to presence. This is the sacred ground where elderly wisdom begins to shine. When you speak with calm instead of anger, when you choose dignity over drama, something subtle but powerful begins to shift. Your children may not notice it immediately, they may resist it at first, but they will feel it. You see, when someone yells, the world gets noisy, but when someone stands tall in silence, with eyes clear and a heart steady, that stillness becomes impossible to ignore. This isn't about being passive. It's about embodying the kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself anymore. Let's be honest, aging comes with many challenges, some physical, some emotional. Healthy aging means more than just managing aches and medications. It means tending to your spirit. It means learning how to protect your peace when your family relationships start to shift in unexpected ways. You're not here to beg for space at the table. You've earned that space with decades of love, labor, and unwavering presence. So if the voices around you grow dismissive, let your silence speak louder. If your advice is met with mockery, let your grace respond with stillness. This is elderly wisdom in action, not lashing out, not shrinking back, but simply standing firm. You don't need to explain your worth, you only need to live it. And slowly, the energy in the room will change. Your children may start listening, not because you raised your voice, but because you stopped playing the same old game, because you no longer need their validation to feel whole. Family dynamics are complex. Aging and family issues aren't always fair, but yes, you have the power to change the tone of every room you enter, not by force, but by example. So breathe deeply, step back with peace, and remember this: the greatest kind of respect doesn't echo. It radiates, and that radiance begins with you. Ends with 3C. Stop trying to earn love by saying yes to everything. There's a quiet kind of exhaustion that many parents carry, one that doesn't come from age, but from always trying to be agreeable. From always saying yes, when deep down, the heart is whispering no, just to avoid conflict, just to keep the peace, just to stay close. But here's something elderly wisdom teaches us: love that must be earned through self-sacrifice is not love at all. It's fear wearing a polite smile. You may find yourself rearranging your day for your grown children, babysitting the grandkids when your body aches, tolerating a tone that stings just so they don't get upset. You're not alone. So many parents do this, not because they're weak, but because they care too much. But over time, this effort begins to wear you down. And what's worse, it begins to teach the people you love most a dangerous lesson: that your time, your needs, your comfort are always secondary. In the name of closeness, you may be teaching them to forget your worth. This is one of the most painful aging and family issues: giving endlessly, only to feel unseen. But here's the gentle truth: the more you chase approval, the less you are respected. Not because your children are unkind, but because we as humans tend to value what stands strong, not what constantly yields. And life after 70 is far too precious to be spent walking on eggshells. Healthy aging isn't just about the body. It's about the boundaries we set and the emotional weight we no longer carry. So if you feel yourself shrinking, bending, adjusting to stay liked, pause. Ask yourself, what am I teaching them about me? Let go of the idea that you must please everyone to be loved. You don't need to be the always available parent to be cherished. You don't need to be the one who never complains to be worthy. You are allowed to say, I'm tired today. I can't do that this time. I deserve to be spoken to kindly. You are allowed to take up space, and you don't need permission to do so. This is not selfish. This is elderly wisdom in motion. It is knowing that your role in the family doesn't require martyrdom. It requires self-respect. Because the more you honor your boundaries, the more your family relationships will begin to honor them too. So stop chasing love. Start standing in it. And you'll find that love, when invited by strength, returns in a way that's real and lasting. 4. Don't argue. Lead with calm. It's so easy to fall into the trap of arguing. When your children speak over you, dismiss your thoughts or raise their voice. It hurts, and your instinct may be to fight back, to raise your voice in return, to remind them, I am your parent. I deserve respect. But here's what elderly wisdom knows. Real strength isn't loud. It's steady. It's calm. It doesn't react. It leads. In the world of family relationships, arguing rarely brings people closer. It pushes them further apart, because when two voices shout, no one hears. But when one voice stays grounded, quiet but unshaken, it shifts the entire atmosphere of a room. This isn't weakness. This is mastery. Life after 70 gives you a gift. Many don't recognize clarity. You've lived through storms, you've handled heartbreak, you've learned what really matters. And now you don't need to win every debate. You just need to live your truth. Instead of saying, "You owe me respect," show them what respect looks like. Not with lectures, not with guilt, but with the way you carry yourself. Steady, clear, and composed. When someone is dismissive, respond with silence. When someone mocks your opinion, don't defend, just pause. That pause has power. That pause speaks louder than words. This is healthy aging in its most graceful form. Not reacting from ego, but responding from wisdom. And over time, something beautiful happens. They begin to notice. They may not say it. They may not show it right away. But they feel the shift, and that shift invites them to meet you at a different level, one of mutual respect, not dominance. You see, one of the toughest aging and family issues is the power struggle that emerges when roles begin to blur. Your children, now adults, start acting like they know better, and sometimes they forget how much you've lived, but you don't have to remind them. You only have to live like someone who remembers their own value. This is leadership. This is quiet influence. This is elderly wisdom. So the next time a moment of disrespect arises, don't rush to correct. Don't fall into the fire. Stand in your stillness, and let that stillness speak for you. Because the deepest kind of respect isn't commanded, it's cultivated. And in your calm, your children just might remember the teacher you've always been. 5. Emotional independence is the key to being seen again. There's a hidden truth many parents carry quietly in their hearts. We don't just want love from our children. We want to feel needed. We want to feel important. We want to matter. But when the calls stop coming, when the visits grow fewer, when the words feel rushed, it's easy to start believing that we're no longer a priority. And that ache? It's not just about being alone. It's about being forgotten. But here's what elderly wisdom gently reminds us. Your worth doesn't come from how often your children call. It doesn't depend on how much they do for you. It comes from within you. You see, when we rely on others, especially our children, to make us feel valuable, we unknowingly hand over our emotional power. And in doing so, we shift the balance of our family relationships in a way that's quietly unhealthy. We become the one always waiting, always hoping, always hurting. But emotional independence is where everything begins to change. When you start building a life that exists outside of your children, something subtle but profound happens. They stop seeing you as someone clinging to the past. They start seeing you as someone living. Life after 70 can be rich, full, vibrant, if you allow it to be. Join that dance class. Take the morning walk you love. Call that old friend. Start painting again or gardening. Or simply enjoying coffee at your own pace. These aren't just hobbies. They're acts of emotional freedom. Healthy aging isn't just about heart rate and cholesterol. It's about rediscovering your own heartbeat, the one that beats for you, not just for your family. When you live with joy that isn't dependent on anyone else, your children notice. They start calling more, not out of obligation but out of curiosity. They want to know what you're up to. They want to hear your stories again. Why? Because joy is magnetic, and self-respect is quietly irresistible. This is not about pushing anyone away. It's about no longer putting your happiness in their hands. It's one of the most misunderstood aging and family issues, the belief that your emotional well-being must come from them. But the truth is, they're watching you, they're learning from you. And when they see that you've created a meaningful life of your own, they will begin to see you differently, not as someone to care for, but as someone to admire again. That's the quiet power of elderly wisdom. It doesn't need attention to shine. It glows from the inside out. So take that first step, not away from them, but toward yourself. And you just might find they start walking back to you. 6. Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges to respect. There's a quiet kind of erosion that happens in families, not all at once, but slowly, quietly. It begins when someone interrupts you and you say nothing. When someone makes a decision that affects you, but you're not even asked. When a tone of voice cuts too deep but you let it slide again. You tell yourself it's not worth the fight. They're just tired, I'll let it go. And you do. Again and again. Until one day, you realize they've stopped asking, stopped listening, stopped respecting. But here's what elderly wisdom whispers gently to the heart. Love without boundaries does not grow stronger. It grows confused, and respect without limits. It quietly disappears. Setting boundaries isn't about being harsh. It's not about shutting people out. It's about teaching them how to treat you with clarity, with kindness, with dignity. It's one of the most overlooked tools of healthy aging. Because while we often focus on physical health, emotional boundaries are what protect your inner peace, especially in the shifting tides of family relationships. Boundaries sound like this. I'm happy to help, but I need notice next time. I'd love to talk, but I won't stay in a conversation where I feel disrespected. I care about you deeply, but my time and energy matter too. These are not acts of rebellion, they are acts of self-respect. And yes, at first they may surprise your children. They may resist, they may even push back. But stay steady, because over time, clear boundaries create clear relationships. And in the long run, your family will begin to meet you where you stand, not where you bend. Life after 70 is not the time to disappear in your own home. It is the time to define the space you deserve. And when you do, you give your children something invaluable, a model of how to age with grace and with backbone. This is elderly wisdom in its truest form, knowing that kindness is not submission, that love is not the absence of limits, that real connection requires mutual understanding, not silent endurance. So take a moment. Ask yourself, gently, where have I been too quiet? Where have I allowed my discomfort to become the norm? And most importantly, where do I begin to draw the line, not out of anger but out of self-love? Because once you do, everything begins to shift, and those who truly love you, they won't walk away, they'll walk toward you with more care, more respect, and more understanding than ever before. 7. When giving becomes a habit and not a gift. There is a quiet pattern many parents fall into, one so familiar it almost feels automatic. You give, you offer, you show up, not because they asked, not because you owe them anything, but simply because that's what love has always looked like to you. You give your time, your energy, your money, your presence. You rearrange doctor's appointments to babysit. You lend without hesitation. You listen without judgment. You step in over and over again, and yet, somewhere along the way, when something changes, they stop saying thank you, they start expecting. And one day, your kindness, so sacred, so heartfelt, becomes background noise. This is one of the quietest aging and family issues, the slow fading of gratitude in the presence of constant giving. And it hurts. Not because you want repayment, but because you want to feel seen. But here's the gentle truth that elderly wisdom offers. When love becomes obligation, it loses its beauty. When generosity is never paused, it is rarely appreciated. There is a powerful shift that happens when you stop saying yes out of habit and begin saying yes with intention. You begin to give, not less love, but more meaningful love. You begin to ask yourself, am I helping because it's truly needed, or am I trying to earn my place in their lives again? You are allowed to give, but you are also allowed to hold back. You are allowed to say, not this time. You are allowed to say, only if it's appreciated. That doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. This clarity is part of healthy aging, because life after 70 should not be spent overextending yourself until there's nothing left. You deserve to feel that your help is valued, not assumed, that your presence is cherished, not taken for granted. And sometimes, the most powerful way to teach appreciation is absence, not cutting off, not withholding out of anger, but simply stepping back long enough for them to feel the space where you once stood. In that space, awareness grows, and from that awareness, so does gratitude. Family relationships are built not just on how much you do for them, but on how much you honor yourself in the process. This is elderly wisdom in action. It doesn't stop giving, but it gives from a place of strength, not depletion. So the next time you're asked to help, pause, breathe, ask yourself, is this for love? Or from fear of being forgotten? And when you choose love from clarity, not habit, that's when love truly returns. 8. You are more than a parent. You are a whole human being. For so many years, your identity may have been wrapped in one sacred word, mom or dad, the one who gave, the one who carried, the one who sacrificed. You centered your world around your children, what they needed, how they felt, where they were headed. And maybe you told yourself that one day when they were grown, you'd finally begin your own life. But now, here you are. The house is quieter, the days are slower, and that promise you made to yourself, to finally live for you, still waits patiently in the background. Let me remind you of something that elderly wisdom knows so well. You were never meant to disappear once your children became adults. You were meant to evolve, to bloom in a different way, to finally come home to yourself. Life after 70 is not a closing chapter. It is a beginning of a different kind of story. And you, dear soul, are still the author. You are not just a parent. You are a person, a thinker, a dreamer, a doer, a traveler, a learner, a friend. It is never too late to ask yourself, what do I enjoy outside of them? What gives me peace? What makes me feel alive? Maybe it's a morning walk, a poetry class, a new recipe, a solo trip you never dared to take. Maybe it's tending to a garden, or painting again with no goal but joy. Maybe it's simply waking up and knowing your schedule is your own. These aren't small things. They are the building blocks of healthy aging. They are the antidote to loneliness. They are the beginning of freedom. And something beautiful happens when you begin to live fully for yourself. Your children start seeing you again, not just as mom or dad, but as you, a whole person with your own vibrant life. This shift changes the energy in your family relationships. It replaces guilt with admiration, obligation with genuine interest. Because people, yes, even your children, are drawn to those who radiate quiet joy. To those who are lit from within. This is elderly wisdom, not just as a lesson, but as a lifestyle. To understand that your life doesn't end when their need for you fades. It expands. You are still here, still worthy of discovery, still full of chapters waiting to be written. So go ahead, take up space, reclaim your mornings, fall in love with your afternoons. Be someone whose life is not on pause, but in motion. Because when you live like that, you don't lose your children. You lead them once again by example. 9. When you respect yourself, others will too. There is a kind of quiet power that doesn't come from words or arguments. It comes from posture, from presence, from the way you enter a room, not demanding attention, but carrying your own calm, dignity. And when you begin to live with that kind of self-respect, something profound happens. People, especially your children, start to see you differently. You're no longer just the person who always says yes, or the one who stays silent to keep the peace. You become someone with weight, with presence, with a quiet gravity, and elderly wisdom tells us this. Respect isn't something you force from others. It's something you inspire. By the way you treat yourself, when your voice trembles less and your decisions come from clarity, when you walk away from conversations that belittle, when you say, I matter, not with your words, but with your boundaries. They notice. They may not say it right away. They may even resist at first because change is uncomfortable. But inside, something begins to shift. They start to listen longer. They speak more gently. They pause before dismissing your opinion. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy changed. This is not pride. This is not ego. This is healthy aging at its most refined, carrying the wisdom of experience and the grace of knowing you don't need to prove anything anymore. And in life after 70, this self-respect becomes your greatest teacher. It teaches your children how to treat you. It teaches you how to love yourself without waiting for anyone else to do it first. You are not invisible. You are not past your influence. In fact, your presence may be more powerful now than ever before, because it's rooted in truth, not fear. Family relationships thrive when built on mutual respect, not silent sacrifice. And the beauty of aging and family issues is that they can evolve when we do. So ask yourself, how do I show up for myself, even when no one is watching? What does it look like to stand in my own light, even if they don't applaud? Because when you do that, when you honor your time, your boundaries, your soul, others begin to honor them too. Elderly wisdom is not loud. It doesn't knock on the table or raise its voice. It simply sits, with its back straight, its voice steady, and its heart full. And that is what draws your children back, not out of guilt, but out of genuine respect. Let your calm be your language. Let your boundaries be your compass. Let your dignity lead the way. Because when you respect yourself, the world follows. 10. One small change can begin a new chapter. Sometimes when the hurt has been building for years, when the distance has grown quiet but deep, it can feel overwhelming to imagine anything changing. You may ask yourself, where do I even begin? Is it too late to be heard again? Too late to be seen with new eyes? But the truth is, it only takes one small step. Not to change them, but to return to yourself. And this is where elderly wisdom becomes your anchor. Because you don't need to tear down walls overnight. You don't need to confront every wound or rewrite every chapter of the past. What you need is to begin. Maybe that beginning is a quiet no when your heart says no. Maybe it's saying, let's talk another time, when a conversation turns unkind. Maybe it's reclaiming a piece of joy, taking the walk you used to love, journaling in the morning light, or simply closing the door and breathing in peace. These acts may seem small to the world, but to your soul, they are everything. They are how healthy aging begins, not in the doctor's office, but in the everyday moments. When you choose to respect your inner voice, because every time you act from self-respect, you gently, steadily begin to retrain the people around you. Your children may not notice right away. They may be confused or even uncomfortable. But over time, your consistency becomes clarity, and your clarity becomes leadership. Family relationships, like all relationships, are living things. They evolve, they stretch, they respond. So even if the bond feels broken, even if the distance feels wide, know this: you don't have to fix everything today. Just take one step. That one step may be the moment your children begin to see you differently, not as someone waiting on the sidelines of their lives, but as someone standing tall in their own light. This is the quiet transformation elderly wisdom offers, that you don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be needed to be loved. And you don't need to be who you were yesterday to be respected today. In life after 70, growth looks different. It looks like choosing peace over pleasing, stillness over struggle, clarity over conflict. So, ask yourself, where am I still giving my power away? And what small step could I take today to begin bringing it home? Because even the smallest changes change everything. And that change doesn't start with them. It starts with you. The final message. If you've stayed with me until now, I want you to know this. You are not alone, you are not invisible, and your story still matters, more than you think. We've talked about pain, yes, about being overlooked, about giving too much, about feeling unheard. But we've also talked about power, the kind of power that lives inside you, the kind that elderly wisdom brings, not through loudness, but through presence. This chapter of your life, life after 70, is not about fading. It's about refining. It's about learning to love yourself enough to stop begging for what should be freely given. Respect, kindness, peace. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just begin with one small step. Set one boundary. Choose one joy. Speak one truth, out loud or even just to yourself. That is the beginning of healthy aging. That is how strained family relationships start to heal, not by pushing or pleading, but by becoming who you were always meant to be. And as you change, they will feel it. As you reclaim your space, they will notice. As you begin to live, not just exist, your worth will no longer need defending. So if this message has touched something in you, share it. Leave a comment. Let someone know they're not walking this path alone, because your voice, even now, especially now, can light the way for someone else. And if no one has told you today, you are wise, you are worthy, you are enough. This is your time. Live it fully, with strength, with clarity, with the quiet grace of someone who finally understands you don't need permission to be powerful. You already are. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment with number 1 to let us know you watched the whole video. We appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel to encourage us. We appreciate you. See you in the next video.